I've thought of a way to make this very simple so you will understand. Would you please give me a spotlight? Do you get what I'm saying now? This is not about you. This is about me being in the spotlight where I deserve to be.
Hello, welcome everyone to the Spotlight here on Fightful.com. I'm Jeremy Lambert, joined as always by Stephen Jensen, and shout out to the Big Dick Dave Batista for the special intro that it created just for us. But Jensen, I do have breaking news here on the Spotlight. Our copyright with Big Dick Dave Batista and the Spotlight intro is up tomorrow. Somebody has swooped in and taken the copyright from us, and now we have to get a new intro. So we will debut a new intro next week, a special intro created just for us, just like the Big Dick Dave Batista one. But that is the last time, maybe, that you'll hear the Dave Batista intro because it has been copyrighted by another show. Very sad. How are you, Jensen?
I'm doing good. Big Dick Dave Batista, leave the memories alone. We appreciate the it's the end of an era. But yes, we have a new intro that we're very excited to debut next week on the show. I don't know if we want to give any hints or not, but I'm very excited for who we had to do this. So yeah, I'm looking forward to using that going forward.
No hints. Nobody needs to know. Is a huge, massive star in the world of wrestling, though, on the level of Big Dick Dave Batista. Did a special intro for us. Jensen, we have a big show today. Lots to talk about. First, get some formalities out of the way. Leave us super chat. Leave us a humper chat. Leave us comments in the comments section. Interact. We like talking to the chat. If you leave us super chats, that helps support the show, helps support everything we do at Fightful. Get your question, comment, statement read on air. So do that. Help us out. Later on, about 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern, our interview with the great Ella J will air. Ella J does a lot of different work for a lot of different websites. You might know her from SE Scoops, from Wrestling Inc. now, from GAW TV, from PW Pro Wrestling Illustrated. She works for a lot of different outlets. We talked to her about her career, interviewing, doing wrestling news now, the outlet she works for, working with GAW, Mickey James, doing the women's 150 for Pro Wrestling Illustrated. Great interview with LJ. So that's going to air at 11 o'clock. And I think that's it. Is that everything, Jensen? Did I hit on everything there?
I think you got everything.
All right. Let's get into it. Let's start with AEW.
Over 1 million fans and a great number in the demo tuned in. And it was a great show. And I think it's been a run of great shows.
Jensen, it's been a run of great shows, and we might get the run continued here. Last night, a teaser aired with the Elite disappearing. They showed their highlights, their title wins, some comments made in the past, and then they were faded in the vignette. Their words were faded. The pictures were faded. It was the first real mention of the Elite. They'd been brought up in passing. They were in some previous video packages last week. I did notice on the Rampage promo for last week, the Elite were part of that. And then last night, an actual vignette was aired. It looks like they are coming back soon. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful.com, Fightful Select, said it is imminent. The return. They were reportedly backstage at the show last night. It looks like the Elite is coming back. We've not seen them since All Out and the altercation and everything that happened there. It looks like they're back soon. Are you ready, Jensen? Are you ready for the passive-aggressive eliteness?
The passive-aggressive eliteness. Yeah, dude, I'm very ready. The fan base is ready. I mean, I know we can tie in a little bit. Like, there's like these reports about like CM Punk's dog Larry. You know, like this whole door. Did it get kicked in? Did it not get kicked in? Did Larry's teeth get knocked loose? Did they not get knocked loose? Why is the story coming out now and not before? I'm not going to sit here and speculate on all these things. I don't know. I'm not going to give really my opinion on all that. But I'll say this: if my dog got kicked in the face, like I'd be pretty pissed off. I don't want to punch somebody. I get that. But I also, once again, the timing is just weird to me. So I don't know. It's all weird. Like the Elite's coming back. Now we're hearing about this story. There's been multiple stories, so it's all the moral of this, I guess, really is like the Elite's clearly coming back, so some sort of investigation has to have been done, and they feel comfortable enough to bring them back, because otherwise, I don't know why you'd be running that video they aired yesterday. So yeah, I thought it was interesting what they chose for that video. Like, it was like the Hangman Page like turning his phone around on BTE to reveal the AEW logo for the first time, and like their moments at like the first press conference and them winning their championships and all this stuff. And so on one hand, yeah, I mean I shouldn't say on one hand, I am very excited for them to come back, and I know the fan base is too. And it isn't just like losing CM Punk. He's obviously a big star, and like there is a chunk of the fan base that are like very big CM Punk fans, and AEW might lose some of those fans if CM Punk isn't there. But like the ratings feel like they've been a little bit down. Like I feel like the ticket sales might be a little bit down and stuff, and I think a lot of people are attributing that to Punk not being there. But it's like that could be a part of it for sure. But it's like it's not just Punk. It's like Punk's gone, the Young Bucks are gone, Kenny's gone. Like that's a big. I mean, Cody's already gone. He's gone. So it's like the Elite is like what, they were like, that's what this company is founded off of. And now there's this whole changing of the guard backstage where it's like Jericho, Danielson, and Mack seem to be kind of taking the leadership roles that the Elite had when AEW started, is how it feels based on like the stuff I'm reading and whatnot, So there's a lot of layers to all this, but at the end of the day, I'm excited for the Elite to be back, and I'm interested to see going forward if they continue to have more of like an EVP leadership role, or if they go more towards like being like more talent and other people kind of take over the leadership roles. I don't know what that's going to look like. But there's a lot of layers, like once again, to this whole thing.
I'm old and I'm fucking tired, and I work with fucking children. I'm tired of wrestling these kids that think they know everything.
Mm-hmm.
Let me talk about this CM Punk thing very fast. So Nick Hausman of Wrestling Inc., who was the reporter who asked the initial question at the press conference, and CM Punk just went from there. He put out this report last night, literally before Dynamite is about to start. This report went up like 7:30, so just before Dynamite was about to start, and just after Sean said it was imminent that they were going to return, just as it seemed that everyone kind of knew they were backstage. Right? The report was that the door got kicked in. Now it's kicked in again. First it was kicked in, and then it wasn't kicked in, and now it's kicked in again. Larry got some teeth knocked out. If that's true, I feel bad for Larry.
Mm-hmm.
That's horrible. I agree with you. Like, if that's true, I would have reacted similar to Punk. I understand why he had that reaction. The other parts of this report don't do Punk any favors. The part where it says from Punk's camp, the press conference didn't seem like a big deal. It was whatever. They went backstage, he went back to his locker room, and things seemed fine. Really? You just said you're working with children who couldn't manage a target, empty-headed dumb fucks. Like, you're worried about all these leaks.
Find me backstage and do something about it.
Yes.
He literally said that.
Yes, he said, if you have a problem with me, come backstage and talk to me. Like, you didn't think this was going to be a big deal. You just thought you were going to go backstage, chill, continue to eat Mindy's Bakery. It's closed on Mondays. You just thought that was what's going to happen here. Right. Nothing was going to come of this. That was odd to me. The more concerning part, the more thing that caught my eye, though, was not that, I mean, look, it was very odd that, hey, this didn't concern me, but like, I could see Punk just like, I got it off my chest. It feels good to get off my chest. I'm done. Like, I'm done. It's good. I feel good. Everything is fine. Like, I could see Punk reacting that way. The other part of this report was CM Punk was worried that Hangman was going to turn their Double or Nothing match into a shoot fight. It was going to be an actual physical fight because of what Hangman said in the buildup to this fight. And so he was worried going into it. Here's my issue.
Well, let me just throw this out there before you get into your issue. a former UFC fighter is afraid that he might have to fight Hangman Page.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
anyway, take that for what you will. Like, I feel like Brock Lesnar doesn't go into a fight like afraid. You know what I mean? Like, if something happens, I think he knows how to handle himself. You think CM Punk wouldn't be that concerned if Hangman shot on him, given his UFC experience. But anyway,
well, here's my issue with this is Hangman said what he said in the build-up. Punk took that a certain type of way. Punk was the one who who said at the press conference, like, he threatened the first $1 million gate. So it sounded like Punk, as we talked about before, was considering maybe pulling out of this match. And maybe it's because he had the concerns that he's going to turn this into a shoot fight, right? They did the match. We all saw the match. I don't think that was Punk's best performance. I mean, he messed up the buckshot a couple of times, but they did the match. It went off without a hitch. Nobody shot on anybody. It didn't seem like any liberties were taken on either side of the match. It was a physical match, but most Hangman matches are physical, right? Like, that's sure. Hangman Page is a very physical wrestler. So they did the match. It was over. Things were fine. Why come back after your injury and then take your shots at Hangman? Like, if you were concerned about it getting physical in that moment and then it didn't, so your concern should have been alleviated there, and now you're coming back 2 months later and then you're starting this shit again. Like, Punk he's all over the place with this. And yeah, the timing, we know why it came out when it did. I'm very firm on, it came out on this day at this time just now because of everything going on with the Elite. Because it was dead quiet until yesterday. It'd been quiet for weeks. Like, Ace Steel reportedly got fired, and then Punk was reportedly working on a contract buyout. This Larry thing feels like it should have been out a while ago when it was initially reported, hey, the door got kicked in. Because the report said that the checkup, which was pre-scheduled, according to the report, this is not something like, oh, let's go get Larry checked out afterwards. It was pre-scheduled just a couple of days after All Out. That's when they found that his teeth got accidentally knocked out. You think that would have come out during this investigation stuff. And Punk's side, even though it said, oh, we were asked to be quiet, and it seems like everybody's been quiet. Like, publicly, everybody's been quiet. I don't know who's been talking to who, as far as which side is saying which, but Sean has said, like, Punk's side initially said kicked in. They pulled back on that a little bit, and now they're back to kicked in. It feels like that would have come out earlier had it been true. I'm not saying Punk's lying.
Sure.
I am saying the timing of things are very skeptical. Yeah. And I don't think certain parts of that report make him look that good.
No, I'm completely with you. Went with literally everything you said. Like, I think a lot of that situation was honestly Punk just thinking that nobody was going to actually step to him. Like, thinking you just say all that and like no one would actually like confront him about it. And then there was some sort of confrontation and it led to whatever all this is. But once again, I think it's a pretty good sign that they're showing video packages for the Elite coming back. And it's very hard for me to believe they would have done a thorough investigation of this whole thing. And then, like, if that was true, if once again, I don't want to like say what's true and what isn't, because we weren't there. It's words versus words, sides versus sides. I have clear bias. You know what I mean? Like, I'm very against Punk in this situation. I'm very upset about it as a wrestling fan, kind of where this has all gotten to with him in the company. And I think it really sucks for fans of the Elite, especially fans in particular of Kenny Omega, having to wait for so long for him to come back. They wait for so long to introduce these trios titles specifically for his return. And then like he's there and then he's gone again. And it's just like, you know what I mean? And it's over something like this, like, but once again, I want to be fair about this. Like, if if what Punk is saying is true, then that changes a lot of the perception of how I feel about the situation. Like if the Young Bucks or Kenny, like if they did bust that door open and Punk's dog did get hurt, like that makes me change my opinion a lot about how I feel about this. But once again, it's suspect the timing of it and like why we've got, I mean, it's been like months at this point, right? Already like that, like
almost 2 months. Yeah.
Right. You would have thought that this would have been like a major part of that. And if it's true, would that not have been part of the investigation? Like, I mean, I'm sure that like that would have been mentioned during like the investigation of them determining who's going to stay in the company and who isn't, and like how long these suspensions are going to be, and if people are going to keep their EVP jobs or not, and all that stuff. Like, and if you're going to buy out contracts, that's a big part of this too. Like, whatever money they owe CM Punk, they have to decide if they want to just pay it to him and like basically get him out of there, or like make him sit at home like throughout a non-compete, or like bring him back to TV at some point and try to work it out. Like they have like a lot of like really, really humongous decisions to make, all based on, you know, trying to find the truth. The only person in this whole situation that would probably tell the whole truth is probably Larry, and he can't talk to people, unfortunately. So you know, it's just a bunch of human beings.
Doolittle up in this bitch.
right. We need to get a Dr. Doolittle in there, and here's the thing: people in the chat that would think it's a work. This obviously isn't a work. But I'll say this: as much as I think it's the best idea to just separate Punk from AEW completely, whether that's a buyout and him sitting at home, or a buyout that lets him go back to the WWE, I really don't care. I personally would like him out of the AEW at this point, because I think it hurts the company long term more than it helps him to be there at this point. But I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, like a year from now, like a Kenny Omega CM Punk match would be like humongous. I mean, you know what I mean? So it's like you could always turn these things into something, but I suspect that we won't see CM Punk wrestling in AEW ever again. It's just my guess. It's just my gut feeling. But it looks like the Elite's coming back, so that's good. And then the video was very interesting. Them once again showing them in all these really important moments in their AEW careers and the history of AEW in general, and them like being like faded, disappeared out of those pictures and stuff. It leads me to believe that there's obviously like a bigger story for their return. So
where do we think this return video is going? Because as you said, the vignette was them being essentially erased. Erased from this history that they created. I mean, them and Cody, and obviously Tony Khan, they created AEW, and they're some of the most decorated wrestlers in the company. Bucks are 2-time tag champs. Omega's former world champ. They're the first ever trio champions. They have top moments in the history of this company, and then they were essentially erased for a few weeks. They weren't in the intro. They just were stripped of the titles with no real reason. It's just like, hey, we're going to crown new champions. Nothing was really mentioned. And now they run this vignette. Do they come back? And I think people are going to cheer for them. But do they come back with a little fire lit of, they hint around being gone, but obviously they can't say anything about anything. So are they like, you know, you tried to erase us, we're back, you took what was ours, we're here to take it back. Like, where are they going, do you think, with this story based on that video package?
That's a really good question. I mean, that's like the question, really, you know, outside of like, when will they return? Like, how are they going to do this? I think that for what it's worth, this is pretty obvious, but not everybody follows this. I'd highly recommend if BTE returns, like definitely watch the first episode of that back. Cause I feel like that's probably going to be the place where like, even if they can't say things, because that's the other side of this that we have to be fair about. There's probably a lot of people that are involved in this that like that legally cannot talk, you know? So like until this is all figured out, or maybe they can't talk about it at all. They might have signed some sort of non-disclosure to get this all figured out too. So we can't like get upset with like Kenny and the Bucks not saying anything about it, you know, if they don't. But I feel like if we hear anything, I think the best chance, I should say, of hearing like something like real about this would be like through BTE. Like even if they're joking about it, like I think they'll address it on BTE to some degree. But as far as the story of them coming in, like I really don't know, but it's intriguing. Just the concept of like, once again, like showing them and then showing them disappearing And I just, I highly doubt the story is going to be anything along the lines of like Tony Khan explaining why they've been gone, like the real explanation to the fans, like but they're clearly alluding to like the Elite disappearing, which also is confusing to like the casual fan base, because once again, I know in 2022 most fans were like, they're on the internet and they're if they want to find something out, they can. But there's definitely a percentage of the fan base, whether it's a small percentage, there are fans out there that still to this day don't understand why Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks were the trios champions, and then they just don't have the titles anymore, and why CM Punk was a world champion. Now John Moxley's the champion again, and like they don't care enough like we do to like pay attention to all the backstage stuff. So like they just watch the show, or maybe they watch it occasionally, and they're just like, what happened? You know what I mean? Like they don't know why they're not there.
I have friends who are casual fans who just watch the show. They're not online or anything. And they were confused by the whole situation. And then they had to get online, or they ask me and I explain it to them. But yeah, if you just watch the show, very confusing stuff of just like, hey, if you watched All Out and everything that happened there, doesn't really matter now, because we're going to crown a new world champion and new trios champions. And we're not going to really tell you why this is going to happen. I think they got to do some sort of explanation of what happened. And even if I don't think anything outright is going to be said, especially on television, I'm with you. If they're going to do something, maybe they poke a little fun in BTE. But I don't know when BTE is coming back, because not that I think like BTE rubbed people the wrong way, but with this like changeover and leadership and everything, and Jericho and Moxley and Danielson becoming more of locker room leaders, I could see the BTE stuff, the passive aggressive stuff that they do on that show. I could see that rubbing people the wrong way. Obviously, there's certain portion of the fan or the locker room that enjoy that stuff. I mean, Sammy still does his vlog. He addresses like the kinks and stuff. He pokes fun at some of the stuff, like he's stomping on like Eddie's action figure and whatnot. But the Elite they really lean into that stuff. And I can see that being an issue. And I can see Tony Khan. I mean, it's been reported that Tony like wasn't the biggest fan of that stuff in the first place. I don't know how true that is, because I do think Tony like enjoys some of that. I mean, Tony does that shit too, with the whole, when it was talked about that WWE had the relationship with New Japan, was working on a relationship with New Japan, and Tony releases that video where he basically cuts a promo on the Nick Khan man talking about the relationship with, like, Tony does that stuff too. So I could see Tony not minding it as much as it was reported, but I could also see him being like, yeah, knock it off, like, or you're definitely not joking about this. This is just something. Don't mention it. Don't joke about it. Just let it go and move on and do your stuff. Do whatever you want to do. Do your storylines. Tell your stories. Don't even bring up this All Out stuff. Jacob Foster says, do you see any chance that CM Punk could be back? My personal opinion, I don't think he's back in AEW, because I think this statement that came out, or this report that came out yesterday, does more harm for him, because he is almost drudging it back up. And I don't think, again, certain parts of that report make him look good. And if you try to bring him back now, like, I could see, okay, hey, it smooths over, or just time heals all wounds type of thing. Maybe he comes back, but now he's again poking things that seem to be a dead issue. And he is again trying to make himself look to be that he was a victim in some sense here. And maybe he was. If the door got kicked in and Larry got teeth knocked out, then he was a victim to an extent. Some of that report, though, I don't think makes him look good. And I don't think that they're going to be like, yeah, let's bring him back in the locker room, when he is still trying to drag this stuff back up. I don't think he's going to WWE either. I know there have been reports on that. I know there have been people talked about, well, Triple H would do it because of the money that they could make with CM Punk. They would do it to stick it to AEW type of thing. All of that is true. I understand all of that. As I tweeted last week, there is a human and emotional factor to this that I think people overlook, because all they want to talk about is how much money CM Punk is going to make. And that's why we're in this position in the first place is because human emotions got in the way of making money. If they just want to make money, all of them just would have done business and put these feelings aside and been like, oh, fuck it. Like, we might have issues with each other, but you know what? Let's do it. Let's turn it. Let's do a match and make money out of this. Instead, CM Punk said what he said. The Elite reacted how they reacted. And now we're in this position. You bring CM Punk into the WWE locker room after he comes off this situation. How does Roman Reigns feel about that? How does Roman Reigns feel like, wait, what? Why do we need this guy? This guy thinks he's going to come in here and just headline WrestleMania after all the shit he's done. How does Kevin Owens feel? Owens tweeted that picture with him and Austin at Mania. How does he feel? He's good friends with the Elite. How does he feel? How does Cody feel? Because there's the speculation that Punk coming in and that stuff kind of led Cody to leave. How does a guy like Cody? How does Seth Rollins feel? Rollins tried to drudge up interest on Twitter with Punk when Punk was on backstage and Punk reacted how he reacted. Like, how does Rollins feel about that stuff? Like, how do those guys feel if it's just like, yeah, let's throw, and I understand, oh, they're going to make a bunch of money. Yeah, CM Punk's making a bunch of money too. And I'm not saying they don't want Punk to make money. A lot of these guys are probably just happy that everybody makes money, but it's like, you're benefiting. How much is the benefit there of Punk coming in of like, he's getting $3 million. I'm just throwing numbers out there. He's getting money off of this too. Like, is it enough to justify, yeah, this guy is also making a bunch of money? Do we really want to help this guy out after all he has done? And do we really want to put him on this platform and this pedestal after all he has done, after all he said about us, after all he said about WWE, after all he said about our friends, after all he did in the last company? Do we really want to help this guy out when we've been here busting our ass the entire time? There's a human element that people just don't want to talk about here because they're like, well, they'd make a bunch of money for it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I absolutely agree with all of that. Like, and not just, you said like the Kevin Owens picture and all that stuff. Like, let's not forget, like, CM Punk and Kevin Owens don't get along. They are enemies from years ago because CM Punk didn't think Kevin Owens took it seriously enough because he wasn't in good physical shape or whatever. Like AJ Styles, how's he feel? They had a huge falling out years ago. I mean, CM Punk has like all these enemies from like his past that it's like, and it happened in AEW too, obviously, with like Kingston and like all these guys that like he didn't get along with like previously and stuff. Like, so it's one of those things where like you don't have to get along with everyone. Like you can set aside differences and make money together in pro wrestling. Like I get that, but it's like it's also the whole idea of CM Punk. Like he comes into AEW, doesn't join the company for the first couple of years because it isn't like established enough for him. Like he, what I mean? Like he didn't really buy in like everyone else did at the beginning of the company. It took years of like courting him to eventually get him to join and a ton of money. So they bring him in, pops some massive ratings. Like that whole return in Chicago was incredible. His storylines were incredible. Like it really was. His on-screen run in AEW was fantastic.
Yeah,
I'm not going to dispute that at all. But it's like you gave him all that. Like you gave him the world title multiple times. He keeps getting injured. He's causing these kind of problems. But the real red flag to me is he went from like, I'm so happy to be here. Tony Khan like has like the Ring of Honor library and like he's gonna do it justice, and like I'm just so happy that I'm finally working for like a real pro wrestling fan and like this real pro wrestling company and blah blah blah. And within a year, like this is where he's at. Like if you're the WWE, like you or anywhere else, you have to look at that track record and be like, this pretty much happened in Ring of Honor. This pretty much happened 10 years ago when he left the WWE. And the same thing with the WWE where he had like time left on his contract and went home. Like it's just a mess. Like, and not to mention, look, I'm not going to deny that CM Punk is like a superstar in wrestling, but in 2022, I don't think he has any real like mainstream star value. Like the wrestling audience might still be into it, I guess, but there's a lot of us who aren't anymore. Anyone who followed his MMA career pretty much jumped off the bandwagon. And like, it's just one of those things where it's like, he can't go back to MMA. He's burning a bridge with AEW. He's not going to work anywhere else. You're not going to go grind the indies or like work for Impact. I mean, obviously. So like, it really, WWE would be the only option. So he kind of has to like tuck his tail between his legs and go back and work there if they'll want him there. But if I'm WWE, I'm sitting there going, yeah, maybe we could bring Punk in for like a WrestleMania and a SummerSlam kind of thing, but like, for like maybe some big matches, but like, you're not going to build your company around him. You can't put the world title on him. Look what happened twice in AEW. Never defended it once and got injured multiple times and then threw a temper tantrum after the pay-per-view. It's like, and then fought and then threw a sucker punch backstage. Like this isn't like, why would you want to bring that into your company? Unless, once again, I guess this is a little bit different if we're talking about like, not that he would act like this, but like a John Cena, because like he's still a massive star. So like you can kind of there's the seesaw of that, right? Where it's like I always, a good example for me would be like Randy Moss for the Minnesota Vikings back in the 90s. Like terrible teammate, played when he wanted to play, hot dogged out there, got himself fined and penalized, and a straight cash homie and all that, right? But it was worth it because he was incredible on the field. So it was just like, you know what? I don't really care if he pisses his teammates off because like he's winning us games with the ways he's playing. So like there's the trade-off there. And that's what you have to think about with CM Punk. Is the juice worth the squeeze? Is all the money you have to give him, plus the very Hulk Hogan-esque, that doesn't work for me, brother type attitude I feel like he has now too, where he doesn't want to, I mean, he didn't put anyone over. Like he put MJF over, but then he beat him. Like, so like he, like the whole time, like he just went in and just beat all the up and coming AEW talent when he was supposed to be like elevating that talent based on the promos he used to cut. And so it's like, it's weird. Like, do you bring him into WWE just for him to be like, I don't really want to lose to that person or that person? Like, and then for what? I just don't think I think he would spike some ratings initially, and then it would just, and then you got, what I mean? Then you got to make some real decisions. Like, do you prioritize him over Cody? Do you prioritize him over Roman? Over people you're trying to build for the future of your company? Like, so for me personally, once again, I'm biased. I get it. I don't think he really fits in anywhere right now, but I would understand like if WWE wanted to bring him in for like some big matches, but I don't think he'd have like an AEW type run there where he's there like every week kind of thing. You know what I mean?
CM Punk's got to work his way from the bottom, start at Wrestling Open every Thursday on IWGP. Just go there, do that for a few months, prove that you're still a good wrestler, prove you can get along with the indie guys, work for the hot dog and the handshake. I think the gimmick with Wrestling Open was like you have to pay to work there. You get paid based on like building up the ring crew and stuff. And that's where he's got to start. He's got to go back and do Wrestling Open. And then maybe in 3 or 4 years, he'll be good enough to make it back to WWE. Money Mark says Punk and Triple H don't like each other. Yeah, that's I don't think people are ignoring that, but maybe they don't realize that it's not just Punk and Vince McMahon don't get along. I think Punk dislikes Triple H more than he likes Vince McMahon. He was always taking shots at Triple H, the doofus son-in-law. Even when, the changeover happened and Punk was asked about the changeover, he was like, well, nothing's going to really change. And he cited, he cited how they handled the Brock Lesnar situation compared to how they handled the Sasha Banks situation, which is a little off base on, but he doesn't think that anything was really going to change based on Triple H being in charge. And I don't think Triple H is going to be a guy like, yeah, okay, unless Triple H is that petty, and he might be, with AEW, and Punk is going to be that petty with AEW as well, but pride's got to be swallowed here. And I don't know if CM Punk is going to swallow pride and be like, you know what? I'm going to come in here. I'm going to be on my best behavior. I'm going to do good business. And then let's fucking go. I don't know if that's going to happen because he did that with AEW for just under a year and then it all blew up. It's going to be much tougher to do that in an environment that he has actually trashed. He never trashed AEW. He just didn't. It just took him a while. I don't know if he's going to swallow some pride on this.
Yeah.
Unless we see again CM Punk and beyond her, that's not going to happen.
No, he's got to go to level up and prove himself. Get
hell yeah. Let's see CM Punk on. He's got to work main event a little bit on Hulu Plus. Got to do that. No, I want to start at the very bottom.
Yeah.
Work in front of 20 people again and go from there.
Hell yeah. CM Punk versus Javier Bernal on Level Up and yeah, I mean, yeah, there was there was one other point I was going to make, but I kind of forgot. But we've probably covered everything we need to as far as it goes for Punk. So yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens going forward. But
I'm excited that I know the Elite people are kind of taking sides of like, oh, I'd much rather have Punk on television and things like that. I think people undervalue the Elite because they want AEW to be a certain way. And I understand that. And again, Punk on television, fantastic. I loved all of his matches. I loved his stories. The Elite can be hit or miss with me with some of their stuff. Sometimes I love popping myself. That's my whole gimmick. So like, I like when the Elite do that, but I understand how it can be a little bit of a turnoff that they just want to pop themselves all the time. But like in the ring, Young Bucks and Omega don't really miss in the ring, and they add a freshness to the television product as well. And I am excited for them to come back. And like, man, the Elite, that Omega and Hangman storyline, and with the Young Bucks involved with that's still some of the best work AEW has done. And I'm not going to undercut that just because CM Punk had a good year and everything. The Elite have a lot of value in the ring and as a on-screen presence as characters. Backstage, we'll see how things go. Maybe they do take a step back and be a little bit more just executive instead of rah locker room leaders. Leave that stuff to Moxley and Jericho and Danielson, who seem to have a good hold on things.
Yeah, I'm with you. And one last point that I'll make is that I know you'd mentioned, I've seen other fans mention this too, about like the idea of CM Punk going to the WWE being like a big like a W over AEW, pretty much. Like it's like, it isn't just getting CM Punk, it's you're getting AEW CM Punk. But that's kind of true, but I mean CM Punk's already so established, like it's different. Like my point is, like, they've already done that. If as like a WWE fan, like you want to see WWE stick it to AEW, like they've already done that. Like they got Cody from AEW. Like that's like the biggest, that's sticking it to somebody right there. If the Elite and Kenny wound up there, or sorry, if Kenny and the Bucks wound up over there, that's the same kind of thing. CM Punk is a little bit different, right? Like I don't consider CM Punk to be like the heart and soul of AEW. I consider the Elite.
He's the dollars and cents.
Right, he's the dollars and cents. Is that, well, according to him. But here's the thing, the numbers didn't really like get that much better, I feel like. I don't know. They did for a minute, for sure. Like they definitely popped some ratings, but I don't know. Once again, we'll see what happens, but what it looks like the Elite's coming back. I'm very, very happy that Kenny and the Bucks are coming back. They're three of the best wrestlers in the entire world. They mean so much to AEW as a company, and it felt very weird with them not being around. So I'm just looking forward to them being back.
My AEW spotlight is Willow Nightingale. Something happy here on this show.
Yes.
Willow Nightingale got signed officially on television at Rampage after she defeated Layla Gray. Willow's been working with AEW for a while now on like Dark and everything, and then she's had more of a television presence in recent months. She's challenged Jade for the title at Battle of the Belts, and now she's officially signed. Look, this is a great signing for AEW. It bolsters their women's division. I hope she does not get lost in that shuffle, because we've seen a lot of women come in and just get lost in that shuffle because they're very focused on whatever Britt Baker is doing, and then whatever the title situation is, which now sort of involves Britt Baker. Saraya is there and she's involved with Britt, and then whatever Jade's doing, which is now a feud with Nyla. Just get Willow, like, even if you just have her win in short time on Dynamite or Rampage, like, that's fine. Just get her on TV. She has such a presence on TV. She's so likable. Britt Baker said this in the interview with Swerve, is like, she knows who she is on television as well. She understands her character. She understands what she's doing, and she attracts people. Like, there's just something about her that people are drawn to her, but you got to be on television for that. And Dex Baker says Ruby and Athena. Yeah, like Ruby was hot for a moment, and then after she did the program with Britt, it was like, she's just kind of like there. Athena, and the same thing. She did the program with Jade, and now she's just kind of like there. I don't want Willow to just be there. All right, like, just give me something with her. Just get her on TV. Just have her do vignettes, whatever it might be. Because this is not just an issue in the women's division as well. They do this with the men. I'm going to point out Ricky Starks, who has this big win over Powerhouse, and then he has like one squash match on TV a week or two later, and then it's just gone off television. And I don't understand it. Ricky is a guy who has a presence, who just attracts people every time he's on TV. Willow, the same thing, but you got to keep them on television consistently. I think this is a great pickup for the women's division. Needs to be featured. Just needs to be featured.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's been a long time coming too, because she's been working like AEW Dark and stuff for what feels like years now. I mean, at least the last year. I know she's been popping up. I know she did the Ring of Honor women's tournament as well for their world title before the company shut down. I knew her mostly from like Beyond Wrestling, because she used to do like a lot of Beyond Wrestling shows, and she used to be a part of that Bird and the Bee tag team with Solo Darling. I used to see a lot, because I used to cover, well, I still cover Uncharted Territory when it's airing, but back when it was Beyond Wrestling Uncharted Territory, I cover it every week for the Weekender, and she was on like almost every episode of that show like during the Beyond Wrestling season. So yeah, I'm a big fan. She's got a fan base too. Like she has like a built-in like audience like through Twitter and stuff. Like she's already got fans. Very, very good in the ring. And I say this all the time about wrestlers. She's different. Like we need people that are different in wrestling. Just like feel like it stand out, And I feel like she stands out. Like she's got a different look. She's got a different vibe about her. Like she's very, very, very likable. So it's just like she gets over everywhere I've seen her work, whether it's on the indies or anywhere else. Like she gets in front of a crowd, just give her a chance in front of a crowd, she'll get over. And yeah, I think that it's a long time coming. When it comes to like the women's division specifically in AEW, I feel like there's the opportunity there to like really make an impact fast, because with like the men, it feels the roster is just there's so many people signed to AEW between AEW and Ring of Honor that it's like, I feel like if you're a dude and you get signed to AEW, like you that climb is like insane unless you come in as like a tippy top star. With the women, I feel like there's a little more opportunity there being new and coming in and like having potential to like really rise the ranks quickly, because you have the opportunity of like doing something against Jade Cargill for the TBS championship, or you do have the chance of like, like here's a good example, like Chris Statlander's injured, and Chris Statlander is one of my favorite wrestlers in the world. It's very similarly, I used to watch her on Beyond Wrestling around the same time I'm talking about Willow, and she's fantastic, but she's injured right now. Maybe you can kind of take maybe some of that push that Statlander was supposed to get and maybe put that on Willow. Like, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's just opportunities there for her to fit in and like actually get a push. And it feels like they are going to involve her with like, other women like Athena and stuff, that I think she's going to have good matches. I think the stories could be interesting. And once again, she's gonna get over. She already is over for like, but she's gonna get a lot more over once the fans see more and more of her. So yeah, Anthony mentioned Hayter. Yeah, Jamie Hayter is another one where like she's a few levels higher because she's been involved with AEW longer, and the fans have been waiting for her to like really break out, and that looks like it's going to happen very soon. But it's promising to see, because AEW's women's division, the long-term success of that division was always going to depend on how much they could develop like homegrown female talent, because they didn't have a start with like a roster of like Charlotte Flairs and Sasha Bankses and Baileys and Bianca Belairs and stuff. Like they had some solid wrestlers, and they have like Thunder Rosa, and they had got Serena Deeb, and Britt Baker got mega over really fast and stuff like that. But like, you know what I mean? It's just one of those things where like I feel like they could really, really benefit, like you said, from having Willow in their division. And long term, like even if she doesn't become like a champion right away, as long as they can just keep her in a good spot and keep her visible to the audience and give her big wins even occasionally, when those opportunities open up towards the top of the card, I think she's going to be ready for it.
I think Willow is next up as ROH Women's Champion, and like that gets her on TV because we know Tony loves using the ROH brand on television. Right now, Mercedes is injured, so I would imagine we probably would have seen, at least on Rampage, more of an ROH Women's title presence on that show. With Mercedes' injury, couldn't really do that. It sounds like Mercedes is, the way she's been tweeting, I don't know anything official, but the way she's been tweeting, it seems like she'll be back sooner rather than later. I imagine she'll be at Final Battle. And you mentioned Willow competing in the tournament for the ROH Women's title. I think that Willow is probably going to face Mercedes at Final Battle and take the title from her there. And that, I got my issues with ROH having such a presence on AEW television. I look forward to whenever ROH gets their own television time, whatever that is. And so they can separate the brands a little bit more. But as long as it gets Willow consistently on one of the television shows on television somehow, that's fine. Put the ROH Women's title on her. She just needs to be there consistently.
I like that idea. I think it makes total sense that she'd be a bit more involved with Ring of Honor, especially towards the beginning of her run there, to because once again, that's a perfect example of just having more opportunity, not just in AEW, but on Ring of Honor, which is basically AEW but a separate brand. Gives so yeah, no, I'm with you. I think that makes total sense. I could totally see her going after the Ring of Honor Women's Championship.
Let's go to our WWE spotlight.
Want to be a professional wrestler, or do you want to be a WWE superstar? WWE superstar sounds a whole lot better to me than being a professional wrestler.
You know who's a WWE superstar, Stephen Jensen? Not Simone Johnson, but Ava Raine. So Joe Gacy and Schism revealed their newest member, the person in the red hoodie, took the mask off. It is Ava Raine, the former Simone Johnson, the Rock's daughter. And she basically said, everyone thinks they know my identity. These people accept me for who I am, not because of who I'm related to. And she is part of the Schism group now. What did you watch this segment? What did you think of this segment?
I did. I tuned in for it. I actually tuned in specifically for only that. Because I saw on Twitter, everyone was like, it's happening next. And I was like, all right, I'll pop this on. Jeremy, she did it for The Rock. She did it for the people. It was funny because I didn't know that was her initially. I was like, because she took the mask off and I was like, who's that? What? Is this a big deal? Who is this? And then I realized, because I didn't know the name Ava Raine. I was like, right. And then I was like, wait, this kind of looks like The Rock's daughter, because I have seen pictures of The Rock's daughter before, and I was like, is that The Rock's daughter? And I looked on Twitter, and it was all just like The Rock's daughter is part of Schism, The Rock's daughter. And I was like, okay, so it is The Rock's daughter. Cool, I guess. I don't know if she's any good. I have no idea. I mean, I'd imagine she's probably fairly new. I know she's been in the developmental system for a little while, but it is cool. I mean, it's got to be exciting if you're Joe Gacy, because what do they call the
dyad
veterans? What
the dyad
now?
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be kind of exciting for those guys, because you'd think that maybe they might have a direct line to The Rock now to some degree, where she might need some help with something, and Joe Gacy can be like, "Yo, Rocky, how can you help me? How can you help us out?" But yeah, man, I don't know. I don't know enough about her at this stage to make a real opinion on it. But I know that the storyline was intriguing for people, and there was a lot of buzz around who it was going to be. I saw a lot of people think it was going to be Isla Dawn for some reason, and obviously I covered NXT UK, so I was like, that'd be kind of cool, because so many of the NXT UK talents now, it's so funny to me, because all these people now I see on Twitter, they're like, Ilya Dragunov's awesome, JD McDonough is really good, and I'm like, I've been saying this for years on the weekend or every single Sunday. I'm like, how are people not watching these shows? They're actually really good. But yeah, so that's kind of my thoughts on it. Cool, I guess. I mean, how do you feel about it? Is this do you know anything really about Ava? What's her name? Ava Raine.
Yeah, I tell it's what's Ava Raine?
Ava the Rock Johnson.
I understand. I don't know whose decision it was to be hey, let's not use Simone Johnson. Let's not try to tie her into the let's make her own person. I don't know who made that decision, if it was a Shawn Michaels call, if it was a Vince McMahon call, because this all kind of happened after Triple H had stepped away. But it could have been his call as well. Maybe it was her call. Maybe she was like, hey, I want to try to build something on my own. Like, that's what she is certainly implying on Twitter when the name change became official. And what she's implying now in this promo is like she just wants to do it on her own. I understand wanting to go that route, because if you try to draw comparisons to The Rock, if you try to be like, oh, this is The Rock's daughter, like that's just, it's almost just setting yourself up. Like if you're Michael Jordan's kids, like, oh yeah, you're better off just like having a different last name than Jordan. You know, right. I was going to say Jackson, but then you get compared to, you know, famous Jacksons and everything. Right. So Jordes, I don't know. Like just completely change your name. Because if you're a basketball player, you're Michael Jordan's kid, you try to play basketball, you're just immediately compared. LeBron's kids are going to have the same issue. It's just what's going to happen. So if you try to use,
let's say on the flip side though, if you're like Braun Breaker, like people want the Steiner name, you know what I mean?
But so here's the thing. And the wife just texted me, like, Charlotte feels like an exception. They're good. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I know.
I don't know if Ava Raine is good.
That's a good point.
Sure. I think that is sort of why she might want to pivot from this as well, because she's been in the system for a while. She's had like multiple knee surgeries. I don't know if she's that good. And she's certainly, look, the Rock is the Rock, right? Like that's top of the top, as they say. So to try to draw comparisons to him, just that's a tough one right there. Do your own thing. I don't have much use for Joe Gacy and the dyad and the schism and everything. These spooky gimmicks and cult gimmicks, they do absolutely nothing for me. They're doing this shit with Scyther or Scripps or whatever the fuck the name is. Like, I don't have time for this. Judgment Day is wearing thin on me with their stuff as well. Like, I just don't have time for this stuff. We'll see what happens with Ava Raine. I don't know if she's any good in the ring. I don't know if she's going to wrestle that much. She has like a little bit of a presence about her. They can protect her sort of with just like, oh, it's the gimmick that she's doing. So she doesn't have to like, they can do like the weird WWE speak promos and use the words that they think are like big and over people's heads, but really it's just to make up for the fact that they aren't really saying shit. Bray Wyatt used to do that all the time. Bray Wyatt wouldn't actually say a damn thing, but the way he talked and the tone he would use and the words he would use, people are just like, oh, Bray Wyatt's dropping knowledge out here with these words he's speaking. It's like, Bray Wyatt ain't saying shit and he keeps losing all these matches. He ain't doing anything. So they can protect her in that way. I'll let it play out. I ain't super high on this whole thing though.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, like the Joe Gacy stuff, I'm interested to see where that goes, because it felt like he had, like you mentioned Bray Wyatt, like he draws like very, very clear comparisons to Bray Wyatt with me, with like the original Wyatt family and like his delivery and even like his family with the dyad and stuff. Like it has similar vibes to like Harper and Rowan in a lot of ways to me and stuff. Like, and now that Wyatt's back, is like, where do you go from here with this guy if he's basically doing Bray Wyatt, but they have the real thing back now, you know? But I will say, I do like Joe Gacy. I've been a fan of his since like CZW. Like, I actually think I am shocked that he has worked out this well in the WWE system. Not on him. Just I didn't think the WWE system would have any idea of how to utilize him. So I actually am a fan of what he does.
Joe Gacy just waiting for The Rock to make like that classic murder thriller movies. Like, Dwayne, you got to stop making these superhero movies. Like, I'm here. Make a nice suspenseful thriller. I'm your guy here. Rock's just like, nah, I'm just going to throw together, you know, a bunch of action scenes and make $1 billion at the box office and not actually put any thought into these movies.
There you go. The best is like, I don't watch a whole lot of movies, but occasionally I'll see a movie with The Rock in it and he'll like actually do like a rock bottom or something to someone like in the movie. And I'm like, hell yeah.
Dude, The Rock rules. He's just like, yeah, let me just throw together this basic ass plot, put a bunch of fight scenes, hand me my $1 billion check for all this money I'm about to make, and we're good to go. Rock's great.
Oh yeah.
Joe Gacy ain't getting no parts in no movies. Joe Gacy ain't got no direct line to The Rock. All right. Ava Raine's gonna call and be like, Dad, I'm doing a cult gimmick right now, and they're asking me to do this, and Rock's like, oh, what you want to do is just mention family and just beat people up. Just talk about sticking heads up asses and then just beat people up. That's all The Rock does in his movies.
And I noticed,
mind you.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess. I tried watching Hobbs and Shaw, and I was like, it's just too much for me. I just can't.
Oh no, you're not going to disparage.
But
we're not disparaging the Fast and the Furious universe,
dude. We could do a whole hour plus on just my thoughts on Fast and Furious franchise. But
they better be good. They better be good thoughts.
Oh, okay, we'll get into that another day. Everything after Tokyo Drift, I think, is just garbage.
Everybody, I'm looking for a new co-host for the Spotlights because Stephen Jensen has disparaged the Fast and the Furious franchise, the greatest film franchise of all time. There's no comparison to anything else. The Marvel universe sucks. The DC universe sucks. The Harry Potter universe sucks. The Star Wars universe sucks. The Star Trek universe sucks. The Disney franchise universe sucks. They all suck. The Fast and Furious franchise is the greatest franchise known to man.
Well, maybe one of these days we'll throw up the Stephen Jensen addresses his enemies logo, and I'll give you my thoughts on Fast and Furious. But I also noticed Ava Raine with the contact lenses too, so that made her spooky.
That always
right?
adds the element of spooky. Just throw some contact lenses in there.
Yeah. Anyway, we can move on. No, Dex Baxter, Dex Baker. I mean, can you pull up his chat real quick?
Yes.
So. It says, this man said after Tokyo Drift, as if Tokyo Drift was good, LOL. Dex, I'm with you so as those movies were coming out, like I liked the first one, because you got to remember, I was in like middle school when these movies first came out. I want to say we both would have been like in middle school when the first Fast and Furious came out, I think. I saw the first one, the second one, and the third one all in theaters, right? Like, first one I really liked because it was like an actual movie about like an undercover cop with like this underground racing scene and like thieves.
But it rolls.
Right. But it's like an actual, like, it's not like totally believable, but like it's an actual story that could happen. The second movie is a little bit crazier. No Vin Diesel, but like, still a pretty good movie, I thought. Like, I mean, a little more out there. Like, I remember them like landing like a car onto like a boat at the end of the movie and stuff, and a little bit wacky, but like still pretty fun. At the end, we hungry, they stole the money. It's like, okay, cool. Third movie, Tokyo Drift, I took a date to. I remember this, and we both looked at each other the entire time like, this is lame as hell. Like, I'm very sorry for bringing you to this, but after seeing all the other Fast and Furious movies and going back and revisiting Tokyo Drift, I think Tokyo Drift is actually, in comparison to the rest of the franchise, I think Tokyo Drift is actually really good. Except for how they tried to make like the main character like a high schooler when he was like 40. Like, that was weird. But anyway, that's so out of topic. I don't have that much time before I have to clock into work. And I kind of don't want to let you get a word in, because I know there's a lot you want to say about this. We should save it.
Fast and Furious is about family and following your dreams. And if you have an issue with that, I have an issue with you.
That's fair. Okay.
All right. Wes Lee won the NXT North American Championship at NXT Halloween Havoc. He won a ladder match because Shawn Michaels loves his damn ladder matches. I thought Wes Lee put in a great performance. He looked like he got murdered when he got thrown onto the announce table and slid off on it, but came back to win. Wes Lee, good for him. He was part of not the Rascals, MSK, and then his partner, did what he did. But good on Wes Lee getting this victory, and now we'll see what happens with the North American title. Where are you at on this Wes Lee victory?
I'm happy. I'm very happy. He was put in a not great situation. I mean, you said like his partner, and there's still a lot of like murkiness around that. To be fair, like I don't want to talk a whole lot about any of that, but like, the rest of the Rascals are all together again out on the indies. Myron Reed back with those guys too. But a lot of people forget that Myron Reed is the fourth Rascal. He just didn't go to Impact with the rest of those guys when they went. But I think for Wes Lee, it's like, and obviously Trey Miguel's killing it, doing what he's doing. I mean, like they're all having good runs, but for Wes Lee, I'm just very happy for him because like he came in as a tag team guy and with the big tag team push, and that was clearly the plans for him, was like to have a run as a tag team, and that changed, and it was just him, and they had to figure out what to do, like what direction to go. Like does he stay in the company? Do you pair him with someone new and try to make a new tag team? Do you just invest and have faith in the dude and just say, you know what, we believe in you individually. Let's see what you can do as a singles performer. And that's where I think they're at with it. Like they see he's talented, he's charismatic. Once again, he's different. He's got a different look. He's got a different type of move set, different, you know what I mean? Just give me stuff that's different. And he thinks outside the box. All those guys do with the Rascals. Like they're always thinking outside the box and like innovating. And it's just the perfect timing. It was like they vacated the championship because of the whole Solo Sikoa thing, which was just weird in itself. But it was like the perfect opportunity to start fresh with a brand new champion. Like to go back to Carmelo Hayes would have been fine, but like I feel like he's going to be main roster soon enough. So it's like, why not throw an opportunity to Wes Lee? And I think he's going to have a good run with the belt. Like so I'm very happy for the guy because once again, it was a situation where he came in with a lot of momentum, was doing really, really well with his tag team. His partner's no longer there. Now it's, what the future is very uncertain. And now he's holding, the NXT North American Championship. And that's a title belt that's synonymous with like having to go out and have good matches, which I know he can do. So I'm looking forward to his run with the title.
It should be good. They put a lot of stock into the North American title. I don't understand that whole Solo Sikoa thing. That was very weird. I feel like Carmelo it would have been fine to go back to him. I feel like he's main roster bound. There's, speculation that he might be the member of Hit Row that comes up on Friday. We shall see about that. But Wes Lee he's a good wrestler, and it is good that he's found some footing after being split with MSK because his partner messed up. So it's good that he's able to stand out as a singles guy now, and it wasn't just like thrown back into a tag team. So I'm looking for it. He's gonna have great matches like that. That's just known. He's just gonna have great matches, and I think a lot of times that's just sort of what they want out of the North American title. Where he does as a character is where what he can do to stand out. There is like, okay, how's his character going to be? Is he just a great match guy, or is there going to be a little bit more to him with a character with this title run? So I'm looking forward to it. It should be good. Hopefully they give him some good people to work with, some good material to work with as well.
I believe that they will. I think he'll have banger matches, and this will breathe new life into his career. I think I think people will view him as like a potential single star in the WWE system going forward if this is a successful run. And I have no reason to think it won't be successful because he's super talented.
Onto our other spotlight.
Our product is what it is. We're going straight up the middle.
Well, one thing that the NWA product does not do is empower women, because they don't think they have enough television-ready stars for Empower. But you know who is television-ready? And they're going to be on MLW Fightland. Taya Valkyrie against Trish Adora. It's going to be on Fightland for the Women's Championship, the Women's Featherweight Championship. Jensen, this is your spotlight. Seems like you're hyped for this match. Trish Adora getting a good shot here.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, so for one, MLW returning, so that's something that I definitely wanted to bring up. It's frustrating though, as a fan of MLW and as somebody who covers it for the Weekender, that you can never really watch unless I'm wrong about Fightland. Like they usually don't let you watch these shows live. Yeah. So you by the time a lot of this airs, it's somewhat obsolete, or like if you want to know the results, I mean, even if you don't want to know the results, if you're on Twitter, you're going to inevitably see something pop up probably about the results from the show, whether it's a fan that attended live or MLW themselves, like promoting something that might've happened or something. So it's like, it's frustrating because MLW should have a lot more buzz about them and they should have more of an audience, but they're shooting themselves in the foot and pigeonholing their growth by not. It's similar in some ways to like PWG, where it's like, why are you still doing a model where you're like selling DVDs like 6 months after the event happens in today's day and age? Just stream it live. This is insane. Or if not live, like stream it like the next week or something. Like it's so, So yeah, that's, but I just want to throw that out there. MLW is coming back soon. They do have really good talent on their roster, season after season, and I'm sure this will be no different with Fightland. And yeah, the main reason I brought it up though was, for one, yeah, MLW is coming back. For two, Taya Valkyrie, featherweight champion. She's going all over the place, killing it in all these different companies, winning titles, just doing a great job. And the main thing I wanted to bring up was Trish Adora, because we're actually talking about her a little bit in the interview with LJ that you're going to hear at the end of the show. But Trish Adora, super, super talented, has been for a long time, all the way up at number 50, I think, this year on the PWI 500, like the main 500 list. And I think she was 44 the year prior, with no mainstream wrestling exposure. Like, she doesn't work any like AEW Dynamite, doesn't work WWE, really nothing. I mean, not even really like Impact and stuff. So it's like, she's done as well as she has and gained the notoriety she has based like pretty much strictly off of working independents and being the diaspora champion and everything. And so it's like, I think that's it's really cool to see like MLW bringing her in, because it's her big MLW debut immediately in a title match. Trish Adora versus Taya Valkyrie is going to be a great matchup. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be really good. And I think it's going to expose a lot of new fans to Trish Adora. And I don't know how the contracts work. I don't know what she wants to do. I don't know what the companies want to do. I have no idea. But I would think that the showing that Trish Adora has against Taya Valkyrie, assuming it's good, which I can pretty much guarantee it'll be a really good match, that should really put her on the radar more for because Trish Adora should be on mainstream television somewhere. So I hope this is like the thing that she needs to just maybe whatever maybe a little bump that like Tony Khan or Triple H or whoever needed to go with her, or even like Impact. Like she'd be massive in Impact, because she could do a lot of wrestling against men and women and non-binary wrestlers. She could be right there with Masha Slamovich and Jordan Grace doing what they're doing in Impact Wrestling. So I just hope that this is like a big kind of like breakout moment for Trish Adora against Taya Valkyrie at MLW Fightland.
It is weird that Trish Adora is not signed to one of the bigger promotions, because she is a name, along with Willow, for like the past few years that a lot of people have just talked about, of like, why isn't this person signed? Why isn't this person signed? Now, Willow, of course, just got signed, but Trish is still, she's still out there. She's still a free agent. I don't know if she's signed officially with MLW. MLW contracts are a weird thing anyway, to where even if you sign, it seems kind of easy to get out of them. It's a good platform for her. Like you said, when it comes to MLW, because the visibility isn't as high. I mean, they always hype their new streaming deals, and then it always ends up being something like, now they're on Pro Wrestling TV. Like,
right.
Cool. I mean, I guess it's a good deal for them. Like, does that really have more visibility than like YouTube, where their shows? I still think they air Fusion on YouTube. Oh, MLW is like, it's accessible, but it's not destination. And I'm not talking about that. There used to be a channel called Destination. I'm pretty sure. But it's not Destination. So hopefully this works out well for Trish Adora. Match should be great. Taya's great. Like you said, she kills it everywhere she goes. And the match should definitely be good. And hopefully for Trish Adora, leads to bigger things for her. My other spotlight, keeping it on the women here, we have KAIRI, the former KAIRI Sane, against Mayu Iwatani. This is going to be the IWGP Women's Title Tournament Final. That's going to take place at Wrestle Kingdom, which is a huge match for Wrestle Kingdom. Still a while away, but New Japan has introduced the IWGP. Actually, it's going to be a historic crossover. Sorry, I apologize that I messed up the event that this was. I do think there is going to be a women's match at Wrestle Kingdom, though. But they're going to crown the champion. New Japan is introducing pretty much a women's division here, and we're getting the former KAIRI Sane against Iwatani. Like, I'm not going to pretend like I'm this huge Joshi expert or anything like that. I know some of the women. I've seen some of them wrestle. I watched KAIRI against the alpha female, the former Jazzy Gabbert. I watched Iwatani against Utami. I really enjoyed the Iwatani against Utami match. I thought it was fantastic. I'm kind of in love with Iwatani after watching this match and watching some other work from her. KAIRI is still great. They told a good story with just big against little, little clunky in some spots, but KAIRI, her elbow is still the best in the business, in my opinion. But yeah, I'm happy that the women are getting just more of a spotlight on New Japan, because since Stardom and New Japan are under the Bushiroad banner, they should have been doing this a while ago. Now they're finally doing this. I'm excited for them, and I'm excited to watch some more Joshi wrestling.
Yeah. I mean, the Iwatani and Utani. I'm so bad with a lot of these names. I apologize. That match was really, really good. No, I'm with you. And KAIRI, dude, like you mentioned the elbow drop. Like I say this a lot. Like my favorite move in the history of pro wrestling is Randy Savage's top rope elbow drop. Like I still think that's the best wrestling move, him specifically. Like that's my favorite move ever. And so I'm very, very nitpicky on like people who do elbow drops off the top rope, because I'm like, it varies in quality across the board. Like you got like your Shawn Michaels who did, the deal, and like it was cool. It was a good elbow drop, but then you got like Warhorse, who I think has a fantastic elbow drop and killing it in recent years with his elbow drop. But you got like the CM Punk elbow drop, which was garbage. And then you've got like Kairi Sane, who I honestly think probably outside of Randy Savage probably has my favorite elbow drop ever, just because of the way it looks like she's just driving through her opponents on the way down. The way she pulls her elbow down like that on the way down. I just think I think it's fantastic. And Iwatani and KAIRI are like legitimately two of the best like Joshi wrestlers ever, like in history. So like, I think that this is it makes sense that these two would be the ones wrestling for the IWGP Women's Championship. And I hope I hope we get more of this kind of stuff on Wrestle Kingdom, as you were saying. But I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest like I'm like you. Like I don't know nearly as much about like Joshi wrestling. And it isn't just the on the women's side. Like I just don't watch nearly as much like Japanese wrestling in general as I do American wrestling. So when you sent me this as your other spotlight, I was actually kind of excited because you sent it over and was like, hey, check these matches out. And I was like, man, glad these are on my radar, because I saw some clips on Twitter from some of these matches and I was interested. But I'm glad I checked out more of it, because I'm pretty hyped up for that championship match. I think it's going to be really good. Who do you think wins? You think they go with Iwatani or with KAIRI?
I think they go with Iwatani. KAIRI seems like the easy pick, at least for like American fans, because we know KAIRI from WWE and everything. But I think they go with Iwatani. I want to say one thing about Iwatani real quickly is some of her counters are just like the counters she were doing. Yeah, they were so good. So good. She did the I like to call it the Rey Mysterio counter, but like where they're going for the Razor's Edge or the Gory Bomb and turns that into a Hurricane. That's such a cool counter. Like it's such a cool counter. So yeah, she had some really, really impressive counters in this one. But that's a great match. Iwatani against Utami. And I suspect KAIRI and Iwatani is going to be great. If you do want a more expert opinion on Joshi, you can go on Twitter at Church of Joshi. Our pals Alex and Kayla, Queen of the Ring, Kayla Vision. They do Church of Joshi stuff. Scotty Wrestling, he does a Joshi podcast on FightfulOverbook.com. He also does the results and Joshi Journal on Fightful.com. So there are like actual experts who cover and keep up with the Joshi stuff. This show, we like to learn about new wrestling that maybe we're not as familiar with, and it helps us. Hopefully it helps you guys a little bit as well. And go check out those matches though. And I am excited for the crossover with New Japan, because I will be watching more just because I watch the majority of the big New Japan events. So I'll be watching more Joshi as a result of that as well. It's a long time coming. I know Kevin Kelly has mentioned that he's wanted to do English commentary for Joshi because he wants to introduce American fans to the Joshi wrestling. So yeah, go check that stuff out from Stardom. I have to find the Indies Spotlight bumper here so Nick Gage can give his shout outs.
I want to give a big motherfucking shout out.
Indie Spotlight, Stephen Jensen. Mine this week was Alec Price against AC Mack from Wrestling Open. Turn the page. This is a big match. You know more about the history than I do, but AC Mack, the IWTV champion, and Alec Price, he's been the staple of Beyond Wrestling. This is part of the sort of North versus South battle, I believe, here. AC Mack holding the title, and then Uncharted Territory going to the South, where it was mainly always up in the North. AC Mack traveling to New Jersey for this match. I was excited for this match. Not going to lie, Jensen. Finish left me a little disappointed. Some of the work left me a little disappointed. Becca came in, caused the DQ. That's how this match ended. Was not the big blow off I was hoping for here. What did you think of this match?
Yeah, I was kind of surprised when you chose this as your spotlight. Now, I'm not going to roast this too bad because, like, I'll probably see AC Mack this weekend at Battle Slam. So, like, so if he's watching this, AC, you know I'm a fan. I love you, dude. I thought the match was fine though, for what it was. It's just the finish fell a little flat. Becca came in, hit Alec Price with the chair. The chair shot was weak. I got to call that out. I know, and I think that hurts it sometimes. Like, I'm not one of these people out there that's like, I think people should be taking, Matthew Justice unguarded,
unprotected
dome,
chair shots.
Yeah, chairs to the dome for funsies off the top rope, like every match. Like I'm not saying to do that. Listen, I love Matthew Justice too. If you happen to see this, I'm not roasting. I'm just saying like that you don't need to be doing all of that, in my opinion. But you do need to lay it in a little bit. I even saw it on I think it was on Raw a couple weeks ago. I saw Mick Foley talking about the Miz, like not laying his chair shots in when he hit somebody the other week in the back with a chair. Loomis, yeah, he was like kind of weak on the shots and stuff. So, you gotta. I feel like Becca needed to lay it in a little bit better. Don't know really who to blame, but I feel like I gotta put it a little bit on her. But I think the match was once again, I thought the match was fine for what it needed to be. The story is interesting, like you just said, with AC Mack being the IWGP Independent Wrestling World Champion, Alec Price still the Southern Underground Pro Bone Storm Champion. But he is not a Southern wrestler. Obviously, that's a big part of this. Is like Alec Price has the Sup Championship, which is out of Nashville, that he won during Uncharted Territory, which is out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. But he isn't really a Sup wrestler. But AC Price is a former Sup champion. So like, there's a lot of crossover between like Sup and Action and SCI and Beyond and Wrestling Open and how like it's cool how these worlds are all these like territories are all kind of like meshing this like just like multiverse or whatever of independent wrestling. But no, I'm with you. Like I would like to see a clear winner. I think it's pretty clear we'll see this again. And they're really building Alec Price. Like I could see Alec being the next IWTV champion potentially. They have a couple good options there to succeed AC Mack eventually. And I love AC Mack as a champion. I'm not calling for him to like lose the title necessarily. I'm just saying Alec Price is a good option if they want to go that route eventually. But maybe they're setting up Alec Price versus AC Mack versus Becca in like a triple threat or something. Or I'm not really sure. But I didn't like the finish either for what it's worth. So.
I picked this as my spotlight because you got me hype about this independent wrestling stuff. We've had AC Mack on. Alec Price is about to make his debut in MLW as well. I was excited for this match, and then we watched it, and we got to call out some stuff that maybe we don't always like on this show. And because I was so excited for this match, and I was a little disappointed by it. I hope the rematch, assuming it happens, is going to be better. I do like Alec Price and AC Mack as performers, but sometimes it just doesn't work out, and especially with that finish, a little flat there. Your spotlight, any spotlight, Stephen Jensen, Nick Wayne and Jordan Oliver against the Bang Bros from Freelance. Don't Look Down. This was an excellent match. Just all action all the time. Bang Bros pick up the victory. We're talking about, we mentioned Iwatani and like innovative counters and stuff, just innovative tag team offense from these two teams. Bang Bros, I've seen them live. They're great. Like they're a fun tag team.
They really are. Don't Google them. But
unless you do Bang Bros wrestling.
Yeah,
like,
I guess
maybe,
wrestling,
even then you might get some results you might not want.
You might not. And I only say that because obviously like that's like the inside joke. They say that on commentary a lot too when they come out to the ring. They're always like, it's the Bang Bros. Make sure not to Google that, kids. No, this match was fantastic. This was probably my favorite tag team match of the year. I mean, on an independent level, it's definitely my favorite tag team match. I'd have to put it up against like some major, like AEW matches and stuff like that. Like I'd have to really think about it on like on the grand scale. But on an independent level, this is the best tag team match I've seen all year. This was incredible stuff. The Bang Bros, August Matthews and Davey Bang. They've been flying under the radar for a long time now, and like they're really starting to like really break out. I feel like, which is there might be a little bit of a ceiling with the name. Like they might have to figure something out there.
Yeah.
Which I'm I get that.
The Bash Bros, although that might be copyright.
Yeah, the Mighty Ducks already got dibs on that. But yeah, I mean, and then of course the young pillars, Nick Wayne and Jordan Oliver, two of the best in the game right now. Like I say it often, I think Nick Wayne and Billy Starks are going to be the two biggest wrestlers in the entire world. I mean, it's just a matter of time, like, and probably sooner than later. I mean, both are like 17. Like by the time they're both like 23 to 25, they'll probably be like the two biggest stars like in all of wrestling. I think that'll happen pretty fast because they're so insanely good already. So like Nick Wayne, man, he's just incredible. And then Jordan Oliver, I've been saying it a long time. I think Jordan Oliver, probably should be the next GCW world champion based on the story and him helping like rehabilitate Nick Gage to like for his return. Or not, I shouldn't say rehabilitate, but he was rehabilitated. Like it was like he had the knee injury and he needed to get back to the weight room and stuff. I don't want that to sound like rehab, like a different type of rehab or something.
Right.
But and it's cool because like the young pillars, I like when Oliver and Wayne, like they wore matching gear, like they were very unified as a tag team. I like that they have this tag team career because it looks like they could be the next GCW tag team champions too, based on how things are going right now. So I love how they're having all the success as a tag team, but individually having like running parallel, they're having really successful singles careers too, and not just GCW and all these other companies, Freelance being a great example. So great match, sweet finish. I love the Bang Bros 900 finish where they both hit 450s at the same exact time. And you're right, dude. The innovation, the counters. I can't remember if it was Bang or Matthews, but at one point, I'd never seen it before. But like one of them countered a flying crossbody into a side slam, into a sidewalk slam, like in the middle of the air. I was like, I've never seen that before.
Like, I think it was Bang and Oliver.
I think you're right.
I think that's
it's like if y'all can imagine what I'm talking about though, like Oliver, if this is who was like Oliver's in the air, like going for like a flying crossbody, and in the middle of the move in the air, Banger or Matthews, I just can't remember, literally like in the middle of the air turned it into a sidewalk slam and came down with it. And I was like, that is just genius. The way they have those like double team spears where they're like they roll together.
Oh yeah,
into a spear.
It's like a wheels on the bus. I think they call it like the bus driver. Yeah,
yeah.
Like
they got
that move kind of rules.
Move set. Like I've been watching those guys for a while, but they just keep getting better. And like this, I think was a big breakout match for them because this went kind of viral. Like I saw pretty much every wrestler I know, over the weekend at some point tweeting about this. So like I'm or like at least like on the independent level, I didn't see like Seth Rollins tweeting about this, but like I saw like all the wrestlers that I follow from the indies were all like, go out of your way to watch this Bang Bros and Young Pillars match. So I really think you should watch it, even though I just spoiled the ending and everything. Like that's like watch the match, and it is a fantastic tag team match.
You mentioned the gear, and I do want to say it is nice that everyone had matching gear. Can we not have just a bunch of white guys wearing red? Very confused as to so right. Everyone just wore red. It's like, all right, here's this white guy wearing red. It tripped me up a couple of times. One of these teams got to just put a different color on. Wear black, wear blue. Just both teams wearing red, like long tights, red. And then I was like, all right, who's team with it? But yeah, great match. Go to IWTV, check that out. Use the code Fight Talk.
Use code Fight Talk. Yeah, thank you.
I got you. You can check that out. Check out Freelance ran a couple shows that are on there, and the Beyond Wrestling Open show was on there as well. Jensen.
Go ahead. Yeah, just real quick, I'll say shout out because I almost chose this as my spotlight, but I didn't because the Bang Bros and Young Pillars match was just so insanely good. But also on Freelance over the weekend, I want to give a shout out Craig Mitchell. It looks like he's coming back from injury soon. One of my favorite independent wrestlers, a guy I got to interview like years ago. And he's been out. He got hurt back in, I think, February it was. He had just come back from like a long injury layoff and time off from wrestling. Had this great matchup with Brian Keith and like just like tore his knee apart. So he looks like he's going to be coming back soon. And I think he was targeting, I can't remember who he was targeting. Was it Richard Holiday maybe? I can't remember who was going after now. Oh, no, it was Tyler Matrix, I think is who he was going after. It could be. No, maybe not. I'm getting all my indies mixed up now because like I watch a lot of this stuff on the same day. Like, so like before the weekender, I'll like go through anything I missed over the weekend. So now all these shows are running together in my head. But I know that Craig Mitchell came back. He saved somebody at the end of a match, and it was whoever wrestled Shazza McKenzie. I'm almost positive. So, anyways, that said, shout out to Craig Mitchell, and I'm looking forward to talking more about him on this show. We could probably interview him too at some point too, when he's getting back in the ring. So yeah, shout out to Craig Mitchell for returning.
There you go. All right, Jensen, let everybody know where they can find you at.
Yes, you can follow me on Twitter at FightTalk_FIGHT_TALK_. You can use code FightTalk at IndependentWrestling.tv or at IWGP.live. I will be at Battle Slam this Sunday. I saw Caden in the chat asking, should I make the drive to Battle Slam in Atlanta? Yeah, you should. And if you're there, let me know, because I'll sit with you. I'll probably be there by myself. Usually I have like some people to go with, but I think because it's like Halloween, I think people have other plans. So yeah, if there's anyone there, like I'll hang out with you the whole show. I'm not going to really have anything else to do. And I'll probably get some interviews after the show with like Baron Black and maybe some other people. Speedball Mike Bailey is going to be wrestling Baron Black on the show. I'm pumped. Turbo Chubbs. Hey, Turbo Chubbs. I don't know what you look like. Come up and say hey. I'll probably be wearing a Fightful hoodie. It'll be easy to find me. And I'll just be hanging out by myself, probably like literally just like in a chair by myself outside of like completely alone. So please feel free to come say hey. So yeah, you can follow me on those. Oh, it's Ryan. Oh, okay. I actually know Ryan. Ryan has gone to me. I met him through Battle Slam. So hell yeah, I'm glad that you're going to be there, Ryan. So I know I'll be able to hang out with Ryan during the show, and anyone else who's there, come say hey. I appreciate it. And yeah, I think that's it, right? Fightful Select Weekender podcast every Sunday. Subscribe to Fightful Select. If you want to sponsor this show, let us know. Hit up Sean Ross Sapp. We're looking for sponsors. And enjoy this interview with Ella J. And check out the PWI Women's 150 that drops today. We talk about that. And happy belated birthday to Ella, whose birthday was yesterday.
Yes, her birthday see ya. Yesterday. Bye, Jensen. Enjoy the shoot job, or don't enjoy it. I don't know how that goes. There you go. There's the dad book. Yes, Ella J, the PWI 150 did drop today. You can actually go to Fightful.com right now and see who the top 10 is. See who took number 1. We talk about that a little bit with Ella J, but because this was recorded before it dropped, she could not, give us any spoilers or anything like that. But we did talk about her writing for PWI Women's 150 and just PWI in general. We talked about her GAW TV, which is the show with Mickie James, SoCal Val, and Victoria. Talked about how she got involved with that. Various interviews she's done over the years. She's interviewed a lot of wrestlers over the years. Talked about that. Talked about everything she's got going on now. She is full-time wrestling media. Great interview with Ella J. How she got in wrestling, some of her favorite wrestlers, some people to look out for on the independent scene, things like that. Everyone, go follow at Ella J at It's Ella J. Enjoy this interview. We'll be back momentarily. Everyone, enjoy Ella J here on the Creator Spotlight. Welcome back, everyone, to the Creator Spotlight here on the Spotlight here on Fightful.com. I'm still Jeremy Lambert. That is still Stephen Jensen. And we are joined today by media personality who works for blank, 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 and blank. It's Ella J. How you doing?
I did tell him to say that, so it works. I'm great. How are you guys today?
Doing well. Yes, I was gonna list off the 500 websites you work for, and you're like, we'll be here all day. Just say blank, blank, blank. I was like, all right, I'm gonna do it. So you can't ask me to do these things. I will 100% do that. Okay. Ella, first question: just how did you get started in the wrestling media space?
Yeah, so it was not by accident. It was just kind of on a whim because my degree is totally unrelated. I graduated with my bachelor's degree in psychology and minored in creative writing, was set to go to grad school, enrolled and everything for psychology to go for my master's. But then I was like, I don't really know if this is exactly what I want to do because that's more debt and you get even less aid in grad school. So I was like, maybe I'll take a break, maybe a semester or a year off while working the same shoot job that I just left a couple years that I just left recently. So I was there for 6.5 years. I was like, I'm just gonna work, and I was part of the wrestling community at that time, but I was like, I'll have so much free time outside of work now. And I had seen you guys have had my good friend Samira on here before. She was killing it and doing interviews in that time, and also people like Chris Van Fleet and Alicia too were into podcasting and interviewing. I was like, I love wrestling. I've been part of the wrestling Twitter community for a couple years now. And I was like, I love talking about it. It's not something I get to talk about really in person. I was really a closeted fan in like high school and middle school, to be honest with you. So like Twitter was like finally the place where I could talk about it. I was like, I'm going to start my own podcast, and then a wrestling gal was born and it's kind of evolved from there.
Yeah, very relatable. I'm sure there's a lot of people, ourselves included, and people listening to this right now, closeted wrestling fans growing up most of their lives. Probably even more difficult for women, to be honest, like because like it's even less likely you'd be into wrestling. And then I'm obviously I'm big on education and everything. I know you said that you kind of pass up a master's degree. It sounds like to start, kind of getting the ball rolling. I have a bachelor's degree. I don't think that like it's one of those things like necessarily. It depends on what you want to go into, right? And I think that I was listening to an interview recently that I thought was really interesting. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Carl Jacobs. He's in like the Mr. Beast videos and
with the streamers. Yeah, I watch Carl. Yeah, and that whole group. Yeah.
So Carl, I've heard him in interviews before talking about how basically like he was going to college and trying to become a video editor. And he was going to school for editing, and then like the opportunity arose to become Mr. Beast's brother's YouTube editor, which eventually evolved into him like becoming a part of the main. My whole point with this though is he basically was offered the dream job while he was in school, and he was like, okay, I could either stay in school and keep learning how to edit, and then hopefully get offered a job close to this good afterwards, or just drop out of school right now and just go do the job. And like, you know what I mean? So I just think that's something that's worth bringing up as well, where it's like your plans can change. Like if you wanted to get a master's degree, you wanted to get this, you want to do that, but like a good opportunity comes up, like you might want to try it, because you never kind of know what might come out of that.
Yeah, this frankly started out as a hobby for me just with my podcast going forward. I didn't intend this to kind of create even possibly like a career path for me. It just started, I was like, I'm going to be like off for the next year. Maybe if I decide to go to grad school or not, I might as well do something fun that I enjoy doing. And then obviously it's evolved since then. And I mean, it has nothing to do with my bachelor's, but I don't regret my time in college. But like you said, sometimes plans change.
How did you get involved with the GAW cast? For people who don't know, the GAW cast, Grown Ass Women podcast with Mickey James, Victoria, SoCal Val. How did your involvement in that come about?
So Mickey had known me for a couple of years before that through social media. And ironically, yesterday was the 5-year anniversary of when we first met in person. And like, I would see her at her music events and like the local shows here. And we became like friendly on social media and stuff. She knew who I was. And so then they started up GAW TV. I was like, of course, I'm going to support this. This is in like May of 2020. She was familiar that I was doing my own podcast and stuff. And then I interviewed her myself at one point. And then later on that year in November, she's like, hey, like, I want to like do something for you. You obviously like have a passion for you. Like, how would you feel about like helping us with our like launching our podcast? Initially, so before she even got there, she knew she pitched me to help her in some way, whether it was with social media or stuff, because frankly, I've made a couple of TikToks for her. A good portion of her TikTok content is because of me. So I was helping her with social media. And then I was like, I mean, I don't know. And then she had the idea of like helping them launch their podcast. And so now I exclusively edit their podcast and put that out on the audio platforms and all of that for them after it's gone out on YouTube. About a week later, it goes out on the audio platforms like Spotify, Anchor, and Stitcher and all of that. So that it kind of just naturally progressed from there. And then obviously now I'm good friends with Lisa and Val too, I think.
You said that started around May of 2020.
Yeah, that's when they started their that's when they started GAW TV. And then later that year they started like their podcast, and then that officially started in January of 2021, so last year.
So with the what do you know if like the pandemic was kind of like part of that or a big reason why they started doing it, because that timing is like when
absolutely. It really was the time that they started that, and they've said that before. They were just kind of at home, they were good friends, were like, we want to do something, and there was the influx of people coming out with podcasts during that time. That was definitely a big factor in it.
I love the GAWcast. If anybody has not checked it out, what are you doing? But those three are great, and they just like sit around and they drink wine. Like, who are you wearing this week? Like, what are you drinking this week? It is very just like laid back girls chat, and they get into wrestling and everything. And I know that like after Mickey had got released, like that was a huge episode. I remember that was like appointment viewing after that, because she went into detail with everything. So if you have not checked out the GAWcast, please do that. What are you involved with now? Because I know you made the announcement a couple weeks ago of like, I'm doing now wrestling full time. So how did it all work out to where now this is your 100% career?
So I'd been literally like manifesting going full time in the universe for like almost 2 years now, but it was that fear of, I don't want to jump into this unless I have two things, and that's consistency and financial stability. And so I was working my shoot job, which was retail, combined with all the other stuff I was doing with like WrestleZone, SE Scoops, Capital Championship Wrestling, yada, yada, it goes on and on. I was like, I really want to do this full time because I've missed out on some opportunities and some more like more work in wrestling because I was laid down by my shoot job. But that kind of like was my safety net for a bit. So I was like, if I can find like something that can give me about the same amount of hours and kind of act as that safety net in place of my shoot job, but in wrestling, then like I'm gonna go for it. And plus my schedule was changing each week, because if you work retail, your schedule doesn't stay consistent. So that was always hard going week to week. I was like, oh, I need to let you know if I can do this once I get my schedule. So I was like, oh, I'm kind of getting sick of doing that. So it was actually, I had been searching for like something on like actually I found it on Indeed. I didn't even see that they announced it on Twitter with Wrestling Inc. I was like just typing in wrestling on Indeed, and then it came up like wrestling news writer. I'm like, what's this? And then I saw it, and then I like read it. It's freelance work. It's basically what I was doing now with SE Scoops and WrestleZone, but you can choose your own set of hours, and the pay was pretty good, to be honest. And so I was like, let me update my resume to reflect my updated work in that. And so I applied, went through the whole onboarding process, the trial shift, and then they accepted me. And so now that's kind of taking the place of my shoot job, about the same amount of hours and days. And so that for me right now is like, I'm excited to do it. But that for me was really the catalyst that made me feel confident enough to expand my role more in the other stuff that I was doing, but also now start wrestling full time, if that makes sense.
For sure. So when it comes to all the different roles you fulfill, anything you enjoy kind of more than the other? Because I've done news for years, and I've always said like, this show, podcasting, like that's my break from news writing, because I'm very deep into the news writing game. But, like, I just love doing shows. Anything like, the news writing, really, that's the thrill for me. The podcast, the hosting, like what's the thrill for you when it comes to wrestling?
It's funny because the news writing is like, I don't know if it's like I would say it's like 60% of my like current schedule now going forward. However, interviewing is honestly my favorite thing. It's what I've done on my podcast. It just, frankly though, it's not enough to like fill your whole plate and get paid and survive off of that. But interviewing is my favorite thing. And maybe that's the psychology major in me, is connecting with people and getting to know their stories beyond, in and outside of wrestling. For me, that's my favorite thing, is doing my research on people and finding cool facts or cool stuff about them, or sometimes talking about deeper stuff that they might have not opened up about before. For me, it's connecting with people, and for me, that's like my favorite thing, whether it's virtual or in person, is interviewing. So I hope I'll be doing that a little bit more with a couple of the expanded roles I'll be taking on for like WrestleZone and SE Scoops. But I love interviewing, kind of like how we're doing here today.
Do you have actually two questions. First one, if you have like a vivid like recollection of like the first time you interviewed a wrestler, like what that experience was like and who it was, and then also if you could follow up afterwards with just like if you have a couple like favorite interviews. Obviously, like it's cool to be able to get anyone we can get. Like I don't like to rank my favorite people we've had on the show or anything like that, but if you have a couple like special interviews that come to mind, I'd like to hear about those as well.
Yeah, so the first wrestler I interviewed was she was ROH Women's Champion at the time, who I was good friends with, who was Kelly Klein, before all that stuff happened with her. And so I kind of started out, leaned on people I was comfortable with, like Samira. I knew Alicia too. Kelly Klein I was pretty good friends with too. So I kind of leaned on people that I knew starting out. And so like I remember that, and she gave me feedback afterwards. I tried to like, there was some more basic like general questions in there, but it was my first time interviewing a wrestler, and so she gave me good feedback. She's like, you had a good mix of like general questions, you know, that were like relevant, but also some deeper questions that also like made her feel comfortable and like opened the box a little bit more. So she gave me some good feedback that day. I remember that. And so from then going forward, I tried to shy a little bit away from those like cliche questions, unless God forbid it's somebody's first interview, which I think I've been somebody's first interview like on about a dozen occasions now. So unless it's their first interview or I can't find any content on them, I really try not to lean on those cliche basic wrestling questions. But in terms of my favorites, I mean, I feel like it has to be Deonna Purrazzo. I've interviewed her like 8 times now. And honestly, I feel like my favorite one, though, was the first one after she just got released from NXT. And she was doing this media tour thing going on. But I felt like we had a cool conversation because she had been coming from a place where she had been pitching herself. And she had been pitching herself to NXT and really had just been released and requested that. And she was kind of in this weird like purgatory with stuff. And so we were talking about not only advocating for yourself, but advocating for others and knowing your worth and deeper topics like that. And so I was just really blown away from her. And then obviously we've built a good rapport since then. And it's always fun interviewing her. And I feel like obviously, I mean, my girl Mickie James is always fun, but in terms of like indie stuff, I would say Becca from like the Boston area was really fun because she has a lot of cool stuff about her that like people don't know. Like she was in a band, she collects vinyl, she has so many cool things about her. I think that was the most like genuinely fun conversation I've had, where most like 90% of the interview was not even wrestling.
Any dream interviews that you have? Like, I gotta at some point in my career get this person.
Yes, so I have like 2 that I've been really kind of trying to manifest that I doubt will ever happen. One is Jamie Hayter, that I've literally been manifesting for over 3 years now. She was actually part of the first ever, it sounds stupid to say, but the first ever indie match that I ever watched actually was her versus Britt Baker in Pro Wrestling Eve before they went to the whole AEW stuff. And so she's one that I've been a fan of since before I even started my podcast. And King Coda, Dakota Kai is also one I've been trying to manifest. However, I doubt that those 2 will ever happen since they're both signed to major companies, but never say never in pro wrestling.
Who are yours, Jeremy? Danielson?
Oh yeah, sure, probably Danielson.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
I do want to ask about the Tony Khan incident. I don't remember the exact media call, but you would ask the question about NWA Empower and women's wrestling, and Tony just like cut you off with it and then went on his big rant that he went on. And you'd said afterwards, like, just talk to Tony. He was apologetic and everything is fine. But in that moment, like, what are you feeling when he just kind of cuts in and starts being Tony Khan?
Well, I just want to note this is kind of my first time like publicly talking about it.
Oh,
so thanks for putting me on the spot, Jeremy.
Awesome.
It's fine.
Awesome.
I figured you would ask about this before.
No. I have not talked about it before, but you know, it's been about a year now. I just remember being like, it's the same feeling that I get when I'm like public speaking. It sounds terrible to say as like a media personality, but like my chest feels like it's like swelling up. And I just remember like being in shock. Like couldn't really register what was happening. And then at the end, when he was like, does that make sense? I'm just like, okay. And I didn't really know what was happening. It was all happening so fast. And then I'm getting DMs, tweets, like as this whole thing is happening right now. And at first I was just kind of in shock. I couldn't process what had really happened. And then when it's the mentions and all that stuff kind of started flooding in, and then later getting, death threats and mean tweets about it, it was like, I didn't want this. I wasn't even supposed to be on that media call because I was supposed to have an interview at that time during that media call. But earlier in the day, the girl messaged me, was like, hey, can we move it back an hour? And so I was like, I guess I'll go on the media call now. So I was almost not even on that media call, which is the craziest thing of it all. But I just remember being so in shock and like, I'm like, oh my gosh, what just happened? And I don't know, it was foreign territory to me. And I think I handled it pretty well, to be honest. But it's still something that like still sticks with me and that I was afraid was going to kind of define my career. This is still really weird to like talk about, but that was one of my worries. I was like, people are only going to remember me now as this girl who got like ousted on a media call. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to follow me and I'm not even going to be able to like go beyond this. This is going to be the only thing people remember me for. But obviously, I feel like that's turned out to not be the case. It's obvious it's still there, but I don't think that that's my legacy now so far in wrestling media.
I mean, I definitely don't think it is. I apologize. I didn't realize. I figured you've been asked about this before, and so we've got an exclusive here with Ella Talk. I didn't mean to bring up like anything bad about this, but it's definitely like I don't think about that when I think about you. I asked about it because I feel it was something to talk about.
It was something that it honestly, like I said, I was worried that that was going to define me for the rest of my career, and I was like, oh my gosh, nobody's going to want to work with me now. And honestly, like, I kind of shied away from media calls then. I was kind of not traumatized from it, like just being honest. But I kind of was. I was like, I'm afraid to like ask a question now. So I kind of like would steer away from some of the future media calls until I felt more comfortable until recently. But even then still like I kind of had that same feeling. I was like, oh gosh, like I gotta tread lightly because there was so many like there was a lot of support, but there was also a good majority of people that were like I said, coming for me on social media and emails and sending like threats and stuff, which is something I had never dealt with before.
See, all I saw, and I'm sorry you had to go through the threats and everything because that's just terrible from people. But all I saw was the support because we follow a lot of mutuals and all of our mutuals were pretty much like, hey, hope you're okay and everything. And then the way, my perspective anyway, was like, Tony, what are you doing? Like, don't just knock this off. Like I felt bad for you that this happened. And I thought Tony looked bad in this, not you. Like I thought you were just doing your job. You're just asking a question. And Tony was the one who came off bad in this whole thing. And so, yeah, I didn't even think of the perspective of like, oh, this is not good for Ella. I'm just thinking of like, Ella's fine. She's just doing her job. But I'm sorry you went through that. And now I feel bad for you.
It's okay. It's luckily the mute button was a thing. However, I definitely went down the rabbit hole that I shouldn't have and like Reddit and like searching Twitter mentions. I will say I was very guilty of that. And then finding people making like podcasts and like articles about it. I'll say I was very guilty at that. So it's not something that I try to do anymore because I've already gone down that rabbit hole and kind of got lost in it, to be honest, in that moment. But it's about a year removed now. I feel like we've patched things up. I've obviously done an AEW one interview since then. I've been invited to have media press passes for them. So, I mean, I guess we're on good terms now, but it's still something I look back and I'm like, oh gosh.
Well, I mean, if it makes you feel any better, like over the last year, especially like really recent, like Tony kind of I don't know if the right way to, you guys wouldn't know what I mean. Like he's kind of becoming kind of a pattern of like not being the best when it comes to some of these media interviews and stuff like that. So like, I think it's something where like, it kind of helps your case a little bit too, if that makes sense, where it's like, okay, we've kind of seen like TK might not be the best at handling a lot of this stuff to begin with. Now on the flip side, positive notes, you mentioned some good mentors and friends of yours, like Samira and Alicia too. I remember, man, I think I came across her stuff, Alicia's stuff when she was doing Ambi. I don't know if she still does that or not.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember knowing her as like a musician interviewer. And then I started noticing her in wrestling and I was like, and then I realized she's like a lot, I shouldn't say, well, she's definitely younger than I am. It was one of those things, she was like accomplishing all this stuff with like all these big musicians and wrestlers and all. I was like, wow, this is really, really, really impressive. I had no idea someone was doing this. What's it like getting, having people like that to talk to and get feedback from? Because that has to be so huge to just be able to pick people's brains like that have that experience that you're kind of trying to, they've had all the success and you want to have success as well. And they're willing to let them pick your mind and everything, or let you pick their mind rather.
Yeah. So I found Alicia when she interviewed Chris Jericho the second time. It was 2017. So far before I even started any of this stuff. But yeah, Alicia, I believe, is only 2 years older than me. So like when I started out, it was kind of when I first started watching her. She was about the same age, and so it's cool. And she's one of my like 3 like big like inspirations. And her, and even I mean, a Fightful's own Denise. Yep. I asked Denise for some advice while I was trying to get my stuff in line and transitioning to full time, and she's one that I look up to a lot. So I was like, thank you, because Denise, I feel like, is the connoisseur. I feel like Denise is just amazing, and I look up to her a lot. She is obviously big in the spotlight and has worked her butt off the last few, actually for like a while now, and she's definitely one that I also look up to, and Alicia and Chris, and they've all like given me good advice that has still stuck with me. It's kind of surreal that like I get to kind of work with and pick the brain of people that I like look up to and kind of aspire to be like, and so it's just cool to see them progress, and then hopefully one day I can kind of get to a path or reach similar success or, you know, work ethic that they have. So it's cool that I'm able to have access to them, and that I've kind of been not following in their steps, but also accomplished some of the same things that they have.
Who would win a fight between me and Denise Salcedo?
Oh, I remember you asking this. It would definitely be Denise.
I asked Samira, could she beat up Denise Salcedo? I don't want to pit people against each other. Now I'm just gonna have everybody beat me up. That's the new bit here. She almost beat me up at my wedding the other day.
Did she?
No. We sang Taylor Swift together. It was a grand old time, as you would expect from us two Swifties. But Denise and I are gonna fight at some point, and she's gonna.
You better just be sure you don't get low blowed.
She does. I know she has a mean low blow. She's scrappy. She's very scrappy. Your involvement in Pro Wrestling Illustrated and the PWI, the Women's 500. How did all that come about?
Yeah, so last year, the Women's 150, that was a fun time. That was my first time being part of anything with PWI, getting asked to be part of the ranking committee last year, and then writing a whole interview, kind of interviewed. I chatted with Chelsea Green, Deonna Purrazzo, and Mickie James to write an article on Empower. I was also there, and kind of like promoting women's wrestling and how far it's come and how far it like the history of it was in the NWA. And so last year was really cool being on the committee. I didn't make the committee this year, but I do still have a piece coming out in Pro Wrestling Illustrated, the Women's 150 issue. So that's going to be really fun. But yeah, last year was really cool kind of having like my work recognized, kind of, because women's wrestling I feel like is like my brand and my niche. You know, it's not something I intended to come into, but it's something I'm genuinely passionate about. So it was really cool to be invited and to be a voice. And last year was the first 150 issue because it expanded from 100 to 150. And so that was cool, kind of being brought in as the indie expert, I was told, and being able to lend my voice to all these girls I've chatted with a lot on my own podcast anyways. So that was honestly really fun, and having my voice for it and having some like influence in the decision of some of the girls that I had advocated for, and them being higher up than maybe necessarily they were considering.
And that's for people listening, that's out today, that PWI. So that's October 27th. Sometime after y'all hear this morning, y'all can check that out as well. So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, like I said, last year I was on the committee. This year I was not, but I did still write a piece, actually 2 pieces in this year's issue. So I'm super excited for everyone to see it.
What goes into being on the committee? Because we had Regis Reg on a few weeks ago, and he's part of the 500, and he does the Black Wrestling Excellence 500 as well. And you know, he talked about people get mad about the rankings. Like if you put them one place, they're like in your DMs, and then other people like use those numbers to get like bookings and stuff. Like, are you conscious of these numbers and how people are going to react to, oh man, if I put them at 101 instead of 99, they're going to be mad at me?
Last year, I feel like for me, it was literally my first time ever being on a committee. So I didn't kind of really know what to go into expecting to it, except like I know my girls pretty much. And I feel like we each had a designated, like we had a Japan expert. We had people who were familiar with the indie scene, like WWE, AEW Impact, like all those little niches within it. For me, I feel like last year I wasn't really, there was a couple of instances where I'm thinking about like, oh, so-and-so is probably going to think that they deserve to be higher, or people are going to be mad that so-and-so like wasn't number 1 or something like that, or they're mad at who number 1 is. at the end of the day, people are going to be mad no matter what. We all have our own subjective opinions. So we try to keep it as objective as possible with actual criteria, with like the quality of matches, the cultural impact, their win-loss record, number of championships held. There's literally a whole guideline to the evaluation period and what is it called? The guidelines and the parameters set the criteria of what goes into making this list. So there's some objectiveness to this. Most of it is, but also part of it is subjective, like the cultural impact or like people's influence on other people. And so it's, again, we're just 7 or 8 people going into this who have pro wrestling experience. We're just a small little bubble of wrestling experts, but on the grand scheme of things, just like with anything, people are going to have their own opinions. And no matter what, even like we saw with the 500, people are going to argue no matter what you do. You can't appease everybody.
So speaking kind of to this specifically with like women's wrestling, I know on this year's list on the PWI 500 and on last year's list, last year Trish Adora was at I think 44 and this year she was at 50. I think that's pretty wild. I think it's cool. Obviously I'm a big fan of independent wrestling and I follow her career, and but it's wild to see somebody, a woman ranked that high on that list to begin with is incredibly impressive, but it's even more impressive to me because she doesn't have really any mainstream visibility. Like no one knows her from like WWE, AEW, anywhere else. It's like, but she's grinded the indies and just put on this catalog over the last few years. It's been so impressive that she gets ranked that highly. Can you speak at all to that? Because I know that you pay attention to that being an indie fan, but I know you said like the committee is going to be all over the place. Some people are going to be mainly WWE, maybe AEW, this or that. How does everyone get on board, like to rank Trish Adora so high? Because I think that personally, I agree with it, but I just feel like a lot of people might have seen that and been like, who's Trish Adora? You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of wild.
So I can't speak to the 500 list necessarily, but I know that Trish Adora is also one, again, for all the women who ranked on the 500, much like an Alec Catch, a Masha Slamovich, a Billy Starks. A lot of it has to, again, do with the criteria of them competing in open weight divisions. And honestly, I think her and Masha and Allie, like I believe were the 3 most highest ranked women on the 500 list. They compete against in a lot of open weight divisions against men and stuff like that.
All 3 of them plus Billy mainly wrestle men, actually.
Yeah, which is exactly like kind of what the 500 debate is based on, those open weight divisions or against the men. So I feel like there's always a case for her when, like you said, a majority of their matches are against men or intergender and stuff like that. And Trish Adora, I think she's also wrestled for a couple men's championships too and stuff like that. But she's also, at the time, I'm trying to think of the evaluation period right now. She had some exposure, obviously, with Ring of Honor and AEW, but I think it's to also her cultural impact herself. Like, she's still the Pan-African diaspora champion. And so for me, she's also had a big cultural impact on the Black community as well. So that is also a part of the 500 list, as well as the cultural impact. And so I feel like it's a combination of her skills. She's held a couple championships. Obviously, like you said, she wrestles against a lot of, in the open weight divisions for intergender wrestling. She's definitely had a cultural impact, and I'm sure her win-loss record is pretty good as well, especially on the indies. And so, maybe her name value or stock isn't mainstream, but I feel like she's one who, even if you haven't seen her on TV, I feel like if you're beyond casual, you've at least heard of Trish Adora, I feel like. Unless you're living under a rock. And so I think rightfully so, she deserves to be that high. She's kind of pushing the boundaries for women. And plus, too, it makes a statement. If there's anybody that's going to make a statement, it would be Trish Adora.
Yeah. And I'd imagine, obviously, I know we can't talk about the women's list coming up until it releases, but I'd imagine she's probably ranked pretty high on that, as are the women. You just mentioned Alec Hatch, Billy Starks, Jordan Grace. There's so much good talent. Masha Slamovich. I mean, Masha Masha might be my favorite wrestler, period, right now. Like anywhere. Like I love Masha. I mean, I love Jordan too. I've been glowing about their match at Bound for Glory since
I was
it happened.
there. I was there in Albany. I was fully convinced. I was like, "There's no way Masha's gonna lose this." You know, she hasn't lost since Knockouts Knockdown against Deonna Purrazzo. So for like basically a year, she's been undefeated in Impact Wrestling. But those two pulled out all the stops. The crowd was chanting, "You can't beat her" to Jordan, and that fired her up even more. Gave Masha all of her best stuff. And honestly, I was left speechless in a good way when Jordan defeated Masha because it was a good surprise. That was a fantastic matchup, and Impact definitely left it unpredictable for me because I was literally thoroughly convinced that Masha was walking away with the championship. I was like, there's no way Masha's going to lose. But that match, Jordan Grace, this second run is really proving otherwise. And so I'm excited to see where she goes from here.
I completely agree. I've called it before. I think I've said it here on this channel before. I've said it on some other podcasts. I think Jordan Grace, to me, she'd be my number one candidate to be the one to eventually beat Josh Alexander for the world title. Like I would just have her keep running with this Knockouts championship. And then, you know, because she's also been in the mix for like the X Division title before and stuff like that. And what I like about the Masha, and I love the whole match, but I liked the layer of Masha had it. Like she hit the snowplow, Jordan landed too close to the ropes. So there was the visual pin still. So Masha was still protected and there's still meat on the bones if they want to come back, which they would be very foolish not to come back to that. Like you got to run that match back because it was so good. So that's cool that you were there live though, because I mean that's honestly one of those matches I've been telling everybody since it happened. Like if you're a fan of wrestling, especially if you for some reason in 2022 still have some sort of reservation about like high level women's wrestling, like show them that match. Like you can't tell me that isn't as good as anything else you're going to see all night. So
yeah, that match was fantastic. Go on, Jeremy.
Who are some of your favorite wrestlers to watch now or in the past?
I feel like we've named a bunch of them. Like Deonna Purrazzo is always amazing. I love her. I love saying the virtuosa. I feel like I'm just biased to her. I mean, I have her. I did this backwards. I have her hanging up over here. She's fantastic. Like you said, Masha's great. Billy Starks. It's scary that she's not even like reached her full prime yet. Like she's been on like AEW Dark, but she hasn't even reached her prime yet, and she is so good. It's kind of scary to be honest. But one that I feel like is really underrated, at least on the indie scene, is Sandra Moon. We've seen her wrestle Billy. She's been added a couple times at GCW. She's a former FSW women's champion. She's kind of like the leader of the subspace division. I feel like she's really coming up. She's based in Las Vegas and around the West Coast. We've seen her travel a little bit over to the East Coast. She's one that I am really, really psyched for and really am invested in. So I think she's going to take the world by storm. And also Damage Control. I mean, I'm a big fan of all three of those, at least within the women's wrestling landscape. I always love those three. I'm so glad that those three are three I wouldn't have like pinged together to be together because they're so amazing all singles. But I love that they're what they've been doing so far.
Last one. Coolest thing in your room.
Ooh.
She might have just pointed at it. She was like, I love this jump.
She got some cool pictures.
Yeah.
You know what?
There.
You're going to make me literally get this off of my wall over here.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
That was my favorite part when everybody just like leaves and it's like, I got to go grab this. And then I'll come back with it.
Yes. Look at my stuff back
this
here.
Thing is huge,
big surprise.
by the way.
Oh, okay.
This thing is literally huge. I'm not, I think it's really cool. The design of it is really cool. Like the artwork is really cool of Liv Morgan. And so I feel like it's Liv Morgan. She's also just really cool herself. Like it's like, I don't have anything like it else in my room, like art wise. And it's like the biggest piece that I own. So I would say this, to be honest.
That is pretty sweet. Yeah. Cool. That is awesome. Ella, let the people know where they can find you at.
You can find me on Twitter at It's Ella J. If you go to the link tree in my bio, you can find most of my links. I still have to update it a little bit, but you can find all the links there in my link tree there, the easiest way.
websites that she is working for nowadays. I'm very happy that, one, you were in the space, period, and two, that you are now in the space full time. So anybody that can like do this for a full-time thing makes me excited, because I know there aren't too many of us out there. So it is great to have more full-time people doing this in the wrestling media space. Ella, thank you again for joining us. Guys, we'll be right back here on the Big thanks to Ella J for joining us this week on the Creator Spotlight. Again, everyone can go to Pro Wrestling Illustrated, go to their Twitter, check out the women's top 150. Check that out. Go get the magazine, go get the digital edition, whatever you got to do to support. Check out Ella's work at It's Ella J on Twitter. Thanks, everybody, for joining us this week. We will be back next week with a new episode talking about the world of professional wrestling in WWE, AEW, others, and indies. Head over to Fightful Overbooked at noon. You can go over there now, but at noon, we have a new episode of The Gauntlet premiering. Myself and Alex McCarthy go through Roman Reigns' top matches during this 2-year run, the defining match of Roman Reigns' run. We run through some of his best matches and pick the defining match of the run. That premieres at noon Eastern on FightfulOverbooked.com. Tomorrow on FightfulOverbooked.com at 10 a.m. Eastern, it'll be Stephen Jensen, SP3, and probably myself, ranking South Park characters. So we'll be talking about some South Park tomorrow on FightfulOverbooked.com at 10 a.m. Eastern. If you'd like to come hang out with us, please do that. At 3 p.m. Eastern on Fightful Overbooked, we have Rob and Maggie coexisting with Rob Wilkins and Maggie. Everyone go check that out. They'll be talking about the world of wrestling, all the big news coming out of the week, and the big news coming up for the weekend with SmackDown and Rampage. Saturday is newsworthy. Sunday is Tim and Joel Call It in the Ring. Monday, now live on FightfulOverbooked.com. Mondays, 3 p.m. Eastern, is Tag Talk with Haley and Kylie. They're live every Monday at 3 p.m. now. So go check out the show that was done this past Monday, and they promised some Halloween gimmicks for this upcoming Monday. I have no idea what they have in store. I'm sure it'll be great because they are great. So check out Tag Talk Mondays, 3 p.m. Eastern on Fightful Overbooked. And we also had a new episode of New Japan Bread Club with Matt and Kieran, catching everybody up on the world of New Japan. Check that one out. A lot of shows on Fightful Overbooked, FightfulOverbooked.com. We have content daily on that website, on that channel. Go check it out. Leave us a thumbs up. Subscribe. Go support all the creators doing their thing over on that platform. Guys, again, we'll be back next week. Day after Dynamite, 3 p.m. Eastern, here on YouTube.com/Fightful. Will Washington will be there celebrating the day after his birthday. It'll be Dab. Day after birthday. I'm going to dab on Day After Dynamite. That's a reason enough to tune in. Guys, thank you. Go to Fightful.com, YouTube.com/Fightful, Fightful Overbooked. Subscribe, Fightful Select, support. Love y'all. See y'all next week.